And how are you all doing? How was the weekend?
Yes, by God's grace, we coped a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, we thank God for that. And let's go into the front pages, shall we?
Now, the Daily Heritage is reporting this morning, food cheap by high transport fares killing us. This according to some traders the paper spoke to. There's a story about naming the Y University after SD Dombo. This is the president's proposal, and government is wrapping farmers and fisher folk promise to pay the fees of their kids to PhD level, and that's on the front page. But you know, you've heard about the Elikplim quitting to now back Mahama.
Yes, Mr. Elikplim.
My brother cannot rate 100,000. He says that.
Oh, please. That's a very spurious allegation that you can't.
Oh, how do you say it is not true? How do you say it's not true?
How do you
the
say
man
it's
says
true?
he is not in a position to continue the race again.
Hey, but that doesn't mean that position is
400,000 was reduced on principle. There's no way you can justify not continuing.
Kojo Bonsu has
the
also
people who can get the money, they have already win the race.
Kojo Bonsu has also stepped out. Would you say the same about Kojo Bonsu?
They don't have the money. Anyway, so those are the stories that Heritage is reporting this morning.
Anyway. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, earth tremor causes panic in Accra. Student loan trust releases 7 million Ghana cedi for applicants. MTN wins Gold Employer of the Year. 2 former presidents, 34 CEOs honored. Government to roll out new mining policy. That's according to Mr. Kojo Nkrumah, Minister for Information. Will enhance industrial growth. That's according to the president. On the back page of the Daily Graphic, 5 die in River OT, and funding for HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria reduced.
Now, Ghana Beyond Aid requires sacrifice from all. That's a wonderful article in the Chronicle. But the other stories you should be interested in is that the Brown of Origin is winning Best Farmer again. And we'll talk about the Best Farmer later on. So, I mean,
yes,
it's instructive.
We'll talk to the Best Farmer later.
Okay, small-scale mining is back, but government will continue to be ruthless on Galamsey. But lawyers to get licenses within, 30 minutes. This is DVLA standard, 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yes, that's what the lawyers are going to get soon.
On the front page of the Herald, Ameri gives Ghana $51 million discount as government clears Bedia Tool and Boachi Ejaku's mess. Rats invade Ghana's embassy in America. Medina roads awarded to inexperienced contractor. That's the front page of the Herald newspaper.
Now, the BNFT is reporting this morning Ghana Water Company Limited signs MOU with GVWC of Sierra Leone, and there's Procurement Act is overly political and must be amended. This is according to Dr. Ismail Yamson. There's a story about agricultural expansion driving deforestation, but the big one is about some $5 million GMPC's drone support. The Africa Center for Energy Policy is warning the creation of a slush fund. In this particular case, you know slush fund, right?
Yep.
Where you go and hide something to do something. Yeah, that is what ASAP is worried about.
But on the drones, did you see Selon Brantier's post?
Yes, I've seen that. The money has been going out big time. You know, they are not happy with what the Ghana Health Services boss, Dr. Isiasa, has been saying. Yeah.
On the front page of the New Crusading Guide, Mahama's second-term bid hits roadblock. Wuntumi describes him as expired goods, petitions Parliament and Judiciary. Akufo-Addo commissions AstroTurf Stadium at Sukura. Ni Adenkpa family lords Akufo-Addo and KCCC to march against false prophets and teachers.
What's KCCC?
I'm not too sure. I'll have to
check that for me. Yeah.
Now, earth tremor. Did you feel it?
I didn't, but I felt the effect on social media.
No,
really. I saw so many messages. I see. Personally, I did not.
Me too. I didn't feel that thing. But residents of Botiano Hills and other places, including some of our colleagues, felt it at home. Latif was eye on it. 7 something. Yeah. Where was he going? That's also a matter that ought to be investigated. But government to buy $216 million implement to boost agricultural mechanization. This is according to the President of the Republic of Ghana. And there's an announcement in the offering of a new mining policy later on this week. But Dr. Baumia and family has been feeding the people who are not in the right state of health. And this has been on the front page of the Finder too.
Okay, so KCCC is the Kumasi Council of Christian Churches in the Ashanti region. They'll be marching against false prophets, and teachers. And the front page of the Ghanaian Observer, Volkswagen Nissan assembly plants to become operational in 2019. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. War on Galamsey. Government outdoors new policy framework on Friday. And Akufo-Addo government delivering on its promises. That's according to Vice President Baumia.
Now, the Ghanaian Times is reporting this morning new policy out on Friday again, and the Nissan VW starts operation in Ghana next year. And President commissions Lord's Mini Stadium. You know, that's some AstroTurf building there, and that is. Yes, those are the stories on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. There's one you should be interested on the back page. Dogbe loses title. And the pretty sad story we all witnessed over the weekend is on the back page of the Ghanaian Times.
On the front page of the Daily Statesman, new policy signals hope for artisanal miners, how politicians trick the poor and steal their votes. Big push for our farmers. We want to transform agriculture. That's according to President Akufo-Addo. And there's also the story about former President John Agyekum Kufuor's birthday on Saturday.
Now, Mahama mad at NDC for not attacking Akufo-Addo, and Kufuor sheds tears at 80th birthday bash. Those are the predominant stories on the front page of the Daily Guide.
So let's begin with you, Enimwa. Earth tremors.
Okay, so I'm going to do this story, and forgive me if I read a lot. There are a lot of technical terms, and I wouldn't want anything to get lost in translation. But if you are any of the people who were affected by this earth tremor, well, apparently there was a panic about it yesterday. It started around 7:45 a.m., lasted between 5 and 10 seconds, predominantly in Wajad Bawe, McCarthy Hill, Kaswa, Botiano, and Mandela, and then it kind of extended towards Anya, Awoshi, La Paz, and North Kanishi. Now, Ghana is said to have a major earthquake fault line stretching from McCarthy Hill and Accra westwards towards the central region and eastwards towards the Equiapam Ridge all the way to the Volta region. Now, in 1939, Ghana experienced its most severe earthquake with a magnitude of over 6.0 on the Richter scale. Between then and now, there have been a few. The most recent was on September 26, 2007. That measured at 5.9, and that was at 3 p.m. Before that, there was March 6, 1997. And that measured at 4.4. We don't have, the Daily Graphic is not reporting any details about yesterday's tremor as at now, but there was one on March 4th earlier this year, and the Ghana Geological Survey Authority spoke about it, and they said that because we have had earthquakes in the past, the likelihood of it happening again is quite high, and there has been a legislation that was passed in 2016 to empower the demolition of a number of houses and other structures that were close to the earthquake fault line, so that when it does happen, it doesn't hit us too hard. I'd like to see what has been done with that. I'm sure not much, but that's where we are on that. So we're waiting more details on this earth tremor that hit us yesterday.
You know, this is the second issue, Raymond, that highlights housing and how people's need for accommodation sometimes puts their own lives in danger.
Yes.
That we've seen in recent times. We've talked about the Wager Ridge.
Yes.
And there is this. And there's also, for instance, the by the river, where near the dam, near the Ghana Water Company Limited dam.
Yes, the residents have actually been asked to move away. Those catchment areas were determined specifically for protection, but they are still living there. The worst part is that if you've seen the pictures on my Joe online from David Andor and Amat Stress consistently, 3-time winner of Photojournalist of the Year, David Andor's pictures from the place shows that this is the biggest time bomb we are sitting on. So along that ridge, I mean, they talked about McCarthy Hill too. Yes. They talk about along the coast where Christian Board Council is even in the first place.
Exactly.
All of these are extremely threatened areas, but this state will not act. This state will look on. This state will try and pretend it is dealing with the matter until some disastrous thing happens. Then we come back to it and say, oh God, we need help and we need to fix the problem.
So a fair question to ask at this point would be, is it the states not acting or the citizens just being recalcitrant?
No, you see, listen, if you leave me,
this
Raymond,
question,
I have to answer one before.
This is a question that we can exhaust now.
Yeah, but if I say one, it's okay.
Go ahead.
You see, people will do what's wrong unless you crack their hip all the time. That's the problem with people. They always do what's wrong. The inclination to do what's wrong, because losing your house, moving and all of that's painful. But if you crack the hip, they will follow.
But these are the same people who are putting their own lives in danger. Should you wait for someone to crack the whip? That's also a counter argument. Anyway. But then again, this is a conversation that we definitely will have.
Brilliant.
Raymond, I'm staying with you now.
Yes.
And let's talk about Kufuor shedding tears.
The man who is our biggest guest today is the man who actually reflected on his life on Saturday in the evening when the dinner was happening big time. He said, you know, they say in Chi, my Bobra. have done it all, right from being member of parliament. At age 26, 27, he became deputy minister of foreign affairs. Then he became DC. Along the line, he went back to parliament. He actually became a member of the PNDC for 6 months. He had to run away. Then he became president, the most successful Dankwa Buzia Dombo politician in this country. The only person who's had an 8-year full-term tenure in this country. He's done a lot of things. I mean, if you have read several of the books, including what Ajimandia put together about his legacy, this man reflected on Saturday and said, at 80, well, God has blessed me enough and put me on the... And there was a big party for him. The president was there, many people. The president was in a handshake with Paul Afoko. I'm sure you saw that picture. I was trying to... People are wondering what the communication was.
I am wondering what the communication was between between him and former President Kufuor. You see that picture that trended of the two of them laughing?
The president and former President Kufuor. People have been imagining things.
I'm wondering. Anyway, what are you most curious about going into an interview with Mr. Kufuor? You can't pick out one thing.
No, I have
There's
things.
There's so many things. Yeah, I guess there's so many things I can't pick out one.
But it was nice listening to him, and I'm looking forward to listening to him a bit more today. And I followed that whole period of, just before he got elected, the transition from Rawlings to Kufuor, and he was a man that I greatly admired, I must say. So yeah.
All right. So let's talk about farmers now. Another man we must admire.
Yes, and congratulations to Mr. James Obing Boateng, who's a former MD of Cadbury, who won the National Best Farmer. And I don't know if you've seen the little thing that's going around on social media from the Presec boys about the fact that he's a Presecan, and so obviously
they are inviting themselves to eat fufu and soup at the farm. You think fufu and soup is
Raymond has it, so
is the preserve of Presec boys? You people. We will all go and eat some of the fufu.
Please, there's the justification that ought to be put out there clearly. That Presec is the only school that had a sewage treatment plant as school farm that turned waste into manure for farming. That means that the inherent agricultural competence of a school, not the one in a urban area or in a rural area, is being established in this particular case. I don't know.
Okay.
If you say I should stop, we'll come back later, all right?
We'll give you this one. Congratulations.
Which other one would you
Anyone, let's go.
So yes, congratulations to Mr. James Obing Boateng and to all the Presec boys, since obviously this is a communal victory. But yes, so we did Farmers Day, which was really exciting. If you watched it on TV, I'm sure that you enjoyed it. A lot of things went on that day. There was the Women in Tractor Operation Association who drove some tractors on the Durban grounds, and then there were the first runner-up was a lady, Miss Charity Akoti, and her sister was speaking on her behalf, and she said about her that her success chalked by her sister was a moral booster for all the women in the Aguna West District in the Central Region. There was also Mr. Yao Boateng, who was the younger brother of Mr. James Boateng, and he says there's so much joy in my house and in the entire Boateng family for the success of our brother. So this story is really just about celebrating those who have dedicated their lives to agriculture and the celebration thereof.
Let's keep talking about food, Raymond, and the people who sell it.
Now, traders, especially those who go to carry these foods from the hinterlands and bring them to the cities to sell, are saying it is true that there is some bumper harvest, but this has not made things any better for them, because the transportation cost is too serious, and in fact they're saying that it's too expensive. So now their biggest problem is not that they can't get the food to buy. They don't think that they have to struggle with the farmers to get food again, and after, to be clear, the planting for food and jobs, they are getting more food products, especially the staples, cassava, the maize, and all of them to buy and bring it to Accra. The other problem is that transporting it first, it may take you way too long a period to get to Accra with the product, which means that some will get spoiled, you lose some along the line, and we know post-harvest losses have been a problem for a very long time.
Very true.
We talked about some 700 million a year being lost virtually every single year, with the last 10 years being the case in points here, and it's also increasing the percentage of our food production that's been lost in that particular case. But they want that issue fixed. If there are no buffer stock companies along the line where they can keep them, or if they're also not having the established refrigerators that they said they'll be getting, or if the food is not going to be processed for them, they should fix the roads so that they can travel faster. they can get to their destinations earlier and make sure that they sell the food at the price that they can get some profit from it, and Ghanaians can get the food to eat at the right level. I hope to see how this will reflect in the next month's inflation, since some of these food products are part of the basket anyway.
But if you look at the basket of inflation, what sort of impact does food inflation?
Yeah, it's a major one. So mostly they say food and non-food inflation.
Yes,
it's because food inflation is huge. No, it's mostly food inflation because it's been problematic for a very long time. And we prioritize food. We in this country, we prioritize food. Food is a very important one. Just that food inflation is mostly not. It doesn't move as fast as the other ones. Transportation is a big deal. Other things, including the drinks and other things, also contribute very well. So we hope to see how this will pan out in the next, maybe in the next 2 or 3 months. If it's consistent over the period, then we'll see whether it make a major impact on it.
All right, then. Thanks, Raymond. Any more? Back to you. Let's talk about health. HIV.
Yes. So, some bad news. The Global Fund allocation towards Ghana, towards the elimination of HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria has been reduced by $56 million from $250 million to $194 million for the next 3 years. Now, the reduction is partly because of the country's performance in tackling these diseases, and as much as we may have reduced, for example, the deaths from malaria from 3,882 deaths in 2014 to 1,264 in 2016. We're still not meeting our goals. There were 12,000 new cases of HIV in 2015, and it's gone up to 20,418 new cases of HIV in 2016. Currently, we have 293,804 people living with HIV in Ghana. So as much as we may be reducing in some cases or in some areas the disease prevalence, we're not meeting our targets, and so our allocations have been cut down. The Global Fund portfolio manager of High Impact Africa has said that we can actually go further down by 2021, so this figure can be reduced if we do not up our game and try to meet our targets when it comes to the SDG for HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria.
Right. Thank you, Anima. Remember, before we go ahead, we have some insider information.
Yeah, deep inside.
Okay, share with
let me tell you the difference in this case. So, I mean, apparently, the president asked, Mr. Chairman, how are you?
And Paul Afoko replied,
yes, I'm fine, Mr. President. I see you on TV every day. That's Paul Afoko. Then Akufo-Addo, good to see you. Then Paul Afoko, same here. It's not the conversation I expected, but they hit something.
Very short.
But this one is.
They were both in a hurry. I'm sure the president was squeezing a lot of people in that.
But I see you on TV every day, though. The president is sitting on TV plenty.
But don't try and read any meanings into this one. Let's talk about small-scale mining.
Okay, now there is in the coming days the policy that ought to redefine and put in proper perspective our small-scale mining space. Remember that for a very long time we thought they were doing small-scale mining, artisanal mining for the record, but they happen to have engaged, especially with Chinese and other people helping them, excavators and all the big things that the big companies also use. So government is remodeling the space and getting them help. We know that the weeks before, last 2 weeks or so, they started training and recruiting and interviewing fresh small-scale miners, and including the old ones though, so that you know you are qualified and you have what it takes to operate in that particular space. One of the biggest problems that people had was the TIN, the tax certification number. The small scale miners don't have TIN plenty.
And so they should give them.
So that was the problem. So beyond that, government is going to, and there's expectation according to the Chronicle that this week, when they're going to announce this policy, they will lift the ban on the small-scale mining. You do recall it was placed somewhere in March 2017 because of the bigger problems of Galamsey, the pollution and all the other attendant problems. Government thinks that many of those things are on the right track to be resolved. So that's why we are going to have it somewhat, if it goes through, lifted, and they can go back to work. The people who have been selected and recruited to do the job. Already, the Galamsey and task force has been working hard, clearing some of them. And I was shocked to have seen last week that there were still some Chinese operating in the hinterlands and making money out of us in very terrible ways. We'll be fighting them all the way down. So it is how we have to continue the fight anyway.
Okay, but let's finish off the news review.
Yes, with the Students' Loan Trust. So the Students' Loan Trust Fund has released about 7 million Ghana cedis to give out as loans. Now, out of this amount, 3 million has been used to settle outstanding arrears owed about 32,000 students for the 2017-2018 academic year. The remaining 4 million will be part payments to 3,247 applicants for the 2018-2019 academic year. Now, this loan is going to help some of the students to pay their school fees and meet other academic commitments. Now, if you remember, about a week ago when the whole GIJ brouhaha was going on, some of the students had said that they couldn't write their exams because they hadn't received their loans from the trust. Well, apparently this is going to be remedied. The head of public affairs unit of the trust, Mr. George Lane, has been speaking. He says that the trust sympathizes with them and they're going to release the money as soon as it becomes available. But he's also asking students to make alternative arrangements in the interim until the money is disbursed so that they're not missing exams and missing class and stuff like that.
Right, thanks Anima, thanks Raymond. Let's go online now. And the online news review is brought to you by Zenith Bank. In your best interest, Goyle Good Energy. Download the Safe Doctor app now from Google Play. Safe Doctor, the future of better medical care. Now the rewards are raining at Goyle's Efie promotions. Do you buy fuel at Goyle? Hurry and do so, because in the month of November alone, 720 of our customers have received their ultimate rewards from the CIMG Petroleum Company of the Year, Goyle. Adepa Ofia Oye. Josh Crying of Ofanko has received 1,000 cedis worth of fuel on his gold card for the month of November and a weekend hotel stay for 2. Many others were rewarded with 1,000 cedis worth of fuel for accruing the highest points. So collect your scratch card anytime you buy gold fuel, 80 cedis and above. Dial *161 *4645 hash. Follow the steps. Your loyalty rewards also await you at the end of the month if you buy more fuel and accrue more points. Goyle Efie promo runs till January 2019. Terms and conditions apply. This promo is in partnership with Coconut Grove Hotels, University Engineering and Consultancy Services Limited, Alisa Hotels, Aquafresh Calipo, First Atlantic Bank, ADB, Famous Familiar, and Roberts & Sons Optical Services. Now, this festive season, Zenith Bank is offering you the opportunity to become part of its big, wonderful family. Visit any Zenith Bank branch nationwide. During the first 2 weeks in December, let our able team assist you choose from an array of products and services that definitely cater to your unique banking needs. So tell a friend to tell a friend. Whether you're an individual, an SME, or a corporate entity at Zenith Bank, there's something for everyone. Zenith Bank, in your best interests. MyJoyOnline.com begins with new regions. Government publishes Justice Brobe reports. It's a 428-page document published by the Information Ministry. It sets out the justification for the creation of the new regions and all the details that the Justice Brobe Commission gathered. There's an op-ed in there, Kufuor and the Reconciliation of History by Ivor Ajimanjia. You want to read that one? That's the Ivor Ajimanjia, sorry. That's the person you referred to. Raymond. BBC.com says Sudan helicopter crash kills officials. You want to get the details of that on BBC.com. Speaking of the BBC, it's time for the BBC News at 7. We're going to take that immediately after this. Thanks, anyone. Thanks, Raymond.
This was Kwame's life before